Oh, Joey must like that music. On the phone with us now is truly one of my favorites, Mr. Jay Taylor. Jay is the editor of Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. He's also got a website, miningstocks.com. Jay, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really well, and I enjoy that song. It's Jay and the Americans.
Hey, very good, very good.
And only in America, that was at least once true, but I'm hoping that remains true into the future.
Only in America can we call a $15.7 trillion increase in government spending a cut. Jay, you penned a article on miningstocks.com, a frightening Elliott wave picture. First, what is the Elliott wave?
Well, the Elliott wave is, I'm not really a technical analyst myself, but I do follow the work of Robert Prechter, who's from somewhere down that part of the country where you're from. And it just acknowledges that there are waves in nature that are also observable in markets and human behavior. And, Mr. Prechter's work and other Elliott Wave people suggest that we are nearing a very, very dangerous time, not just a sort of a typical, let's say, cyclical bear market, but something much, much bigger, a secular bear market. In fact, the work that Prechter and others have done suggests that this could be a bear market for the ages. I don't want to overstate the problems, but if you look around from a fundamental point of view, it's not terribly difficult to see how that could be true.
How do they go about doing this algorithm to come up with the wave suggestion?
Well, I think a lot of it is really an art as much as a science. I think it's interesting. You look at different Elliott Wave analysts, and they come up with different conclusions. So I don't know that it's that some of these folks are using algorithms that would really really precisely tell you with 100% certainty which way things are going to go in the next few minutes or so, or the next few days or even years. But Prechter's work shows a lot of there's a huge long-term resistance line that we're bumping up against. And it seems very, very difficult to get through it. And if you just look at the fundamentals in the economy, in the global economy, with debt rising so much higher than income, from a historical point of view, it's debt to GDP is so much greater than it ever was, even in 1932, that you sort of have to think that maybe the roosters are going. Maybe the thing is just about over. I mean, this major sort of. I heard somebody talking this morning on Bloomberg about the possibility that a 200 or 250 year growth growth period in Western civilization may be coming to an end. I don't want to overstate what we may be facing, but I honestly believe I have never felt more fearful than I do right now about what's heading our way. And I really wonder, with the fiscal cliff looming over us, and I read about where Timothy Geithner says we're willing to let the economy go over the fiscal cliff if the other side doesn't come our way. Then I really sort of wonder if that wouldn't just give the president an excuse to issue an executive order and suggest that Congress doesn't matter anymore.
Jay, since you are a student of the economy and you know about this fiat currency, and I spent a little bit of time last night because I was so sick and tired of hearing increases called cuts that I studied this. Mm-hmm. The Budget Control Act of 2011, the raising of the debt ceiling, that debacle, calls for a $15.7 trillion increase in baseline spending over the 10-year period of the budget.
Yeah.
Which is slightly under the current size of the money supply. The old, I guess the M3, which they conveniently don't track here anymore, but they still do in Europe.
Yeah.
That would be pretty much a doubling of the money supply, which, in my view, would be cutting in half our standard of living. Do you share that opinion?
Yeah, I think that's right, because you can't print money and create wealth. So what you do is you debase the currency, and so, maybe the government still gives you the same amount of dollars they promised you for your Social Security, but those dollars buy half as much. And I think that's probably what's going to happen, and what is in fact happening now, because certainly the dollar doesn't go as far as it did even a couple of years ago in terms of, we just got a bill here in my little company the other day that's saying that our health care costs were going up 12% next year. Well, that's not just once every 10 years. That's once every year. 8 to 12% has been the norm. Health care, whatever you want to look at, and I don't think the CPI comes anywhere near capturing what the cost of living is for most common folks.
What do you recommend people do? Let's start off, obviously, if you have money, gold and silver. Suppose you don't have any money, though. Suppose you're 31 years old, working 2 jobs, married, still paying off your student loan. What do you do? What does that fella do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess you probably pray a lot. That might be one answer for people who are religious. I suppose what you've got to really...
He is, by the way. Okay.
Okay, so, sometimes you come down to the end and you say, well, as the psalmist said, we're here for 70 years, and then we go to the home of our ancestors. But the point is that while we have breath and life, we do have to do the best we can to make ends meet. And I guess what that fellow should do is just be very careful about how he spends his money, and try to save and try to buy some gold or some silver as he's able to, because Lord knows if he puts it in the bank, he's going to lose purchasing power. So I guess first of all, stay out of debt. And he's got the college debt. So if he has college debt, he's got to pay that off, I guess. Who knows? Ultimately, what seems so unjust about this whole thing, is that people that have lived beyond their means, and I'm not meaning to suggest this fellow did at all, but people who have lived beyond their means during the housing bubble, for example, are getting bailed out, and people that were prudent and lived the way they should and weren't irresponsible and didn't take loans out on their house and go spend it on lavish vacations and things. If those people are getting bailed out, where's the justice in that?
Right.
And so I don't know, but I think that fellow has to really. I think you start out, honestly, I think in some ways these difficult times will help bring us together, and maybe will help strengthen, our relationships with our family, with our wives, with our spouses, with our kids, and help us to pull together with friends and community to survive what I think is going to be a very difficult time.
I always say it's not the end of the republic. It's not the zombie apocalypse. But it may very well be a situation similar to what the Greatest Generation went through, and they were better for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. I think that when you get down to what really counts in life, it's about your family. It's about loving one another, taking care of each other, and if the government doesn't completely destroy the family, then we can rebuild again, I suppose. But we are going to have freedom. We're going to have liberty in order to grow and to become prosperous again. And that is what I think the biggest fear I have is that is this notion that collectivism, that we can just have government regulate us and take away the ability of individuals to use their own freedom and their own individual talents, their God-given talents that make them unique. And if you can't offer what you have to the market, because there's so many regulations and so many taxes that don't allow you to make money and run a business, then we are doomed. The whole notion that we can reallocate wealth and make everything better and take it from people who are prosperous and take profits away from corporations. Profits is really what makes the economy grow. You have profits, and then you have the ability to research and develop new products and put them on the market. Take that away. You give that money, transfer it to government. What does government do in terms of creating profits and new wealth? Very little, I would argue. But we have this mindset now. It's a socialist mindset. It's very much, if you really look at the philosophy of people in this country, and especially the Democratic Party, but also in the Republican Party, is the notion that you can make things better by taxing people and taking money away from the private sector and giving it to government. And I just think that's a recipe for poverty.
Jay, we're almost out of time, but I often argue the deficit the deficit, the debt, the printing of the money is a large part of what's led to the destruction of the moral fabric of this country and to the decline of the American family.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that when you have, and as a matter of fact, I think I may have mentioned this on your show before, but what got me interested in gold and sound money was a professor I had back in 1967 named Dr. Peyton Yoder, who was convinced there was a correlation between debasing the currency and the decline in the work ethic and the morality of a nation. And, when you issue credit cards or allow people to have what they want, their impulsive desires, and tell them they don't have to work for it or they don't have to save and work hard for it, then I think people will take you up on that. And I think Americans have taken up, the whole Keynesian economic policies of giveaway, and you don't have to work hard before you buy that car or before you buy that house. You can just buy it on credit, and of course your salary is going to keep going up, and everything's going to go up. The house prices are going to go up. You can flip it. Well, that of course is proving to be false, and wages are not going up. Real wages are shrinking, so middle class people are being hurt, and so there's an awful lot of anger and consternation out in the country. But the whole idea that we can live beyond our means was fostered on us as part of the growth policy of the Keynesian economics, which was given to us. Nixon declared that we're all Keynesians now in 1970 or 71, about the time that he took gold away from the monetary system. And if you go back and look, that is really when we started to see credit running wild. That's when the whole problem, the biggest problem, started, because there was no longer any constraint on the growth of giveaway money, essentially.
Jay, you and I grew up when one parent was working, the other parent stayed home and raised the family. There was an anchor there that doesn't exist, because now both spouses have to work in order to maintain a standard of living lower than the one that we enjoyed growing up.
Absolutely, and both spouses is another part of what you just said. A lot of families don't have both spouses, and it was hard enough if the wife stayed home and the husband went to work. But at least there was that unity and get together in the evening for dinner, and the family was a unit that really was part of each other, and they really pulled for each other. But now, unfortunately, we have also huge divorce rates, huge single parent families, and certainly not passing any morality or any judgment on people. But when you have a mother at home raising kids, I mean, my wife and I just raised one, and we saw how difficult that. We were both working. We had a caretaker during the day, but we saw how difficult that was when both of us were together. But when you take the family away, and you have a mother alone that has to work and then take care of a couple of kids, I mean, it's really, really difficult. And then you wonder, the educational system isn't working. Well, what's the answer? To spend more money, and build more schools? Well, if there's no support at home, how is that kid going to learn? And this is, I think, the biggest problem, is I'd come home from school, and my mom and dad were there to help me. And, you don't see that. It's a whole moral fiber, and I do believe there's a connection between easy credit, easy money, money out of nothing, it just really fosters a falsehood about what life is, the realities of life. It just misleads people into thinking that life can be easy and there's no sacrifice, or there's no repercussions to the way you live your life, is what people. Or if we make a mistake or we get ourselves in trouble, when we just look to the government to bail us out. The problem is that the parasites are getting bigger than the host. And that is, I think, where we're running into big trouble, and why I get back to this notion that we could be in really big trouble, something akin to or worse than the 1930s, unfortunately, is the way I see it.
Jay Taylor, that's obviously why he's one of my favorites. Mining stock